All right, everyone, we're in week 4 this week. We're in our Africa, the Middle Passage and Slavery unit, and we are continuing with slave narratives this week. I will link the overview video as soon as I finish recording and uploading it. We have our introduction, our readings, discussion board, and project 1 information, just like we have in the previous weeks. So our introduction, we have information here about Olaudah Equiano, and that is whose narrative we will be reading this week. So make sure you read that so you have sort of a feel for who he was and the context of his narrative before you dive into it. And then you'll be reading the interesting narrative of the life of Olaudah Equiano, or Gustavus Vassa the African, written by himself. And then the same journal prompts as before. And of course, you know, these are your journals. So anything else that you want to add to them, you are welcome to do that. I don't think I've said that before, but yeah, if you want to add more to it, feel free. I have the same optional resources as last week. I will be looking, I haven't found yet a good video on Olaudah Equiano that's not super long. Or that isn't very well done. So I will be looking for another one. If I find something that I think is good for us, I will go ahead and add that here. But for now, we have the same episodes from Crash Course that we had last week. So, you know, if you didn't get to watch some of those last week, maybe you can do them this week. We don't have a lecture video, so this might be an opportunity to add some of these in just for your own benefit. They give you more of the historical context, and that kind of helps with really understanding the readings and where they're coming from. The discussion board this week, you're going to be discussing Hammond, Britton Hammond's narrative from week 3. Particularly his experiences and views of slavery, and comparing those with the experience and view of slavery that Jupiter Hammond expressed in week 2. You see where they'll come together and where they diverge and have their own perspectives, and think about why each one has the perspective that they have, and how that can shape our own understanding of that period of US history and the experiences that various groups had, various representatives from different groups had at that time. Your initial response should be at least 150 words. Remember that. You need to make sure that you are proofreading. These are, you can think of it as like a mini essay. So you want to make sure that it is well written, that it's proofread, edited, you know, as professional and academic as possible for this post. Your responses can be a little more informal. At that point, you're having a discussion about what was shared. So it can be a little more on the informal side, but your initial response, you want to think of that as kind of a professional academic sort of piece of writing. And that is due Monday, or I'm sorry, the initial response is due Thursday. The rest of the discussion is due Monday. We're continuing with our storytelling project. Now we're really getting into it. This week, you are going to be drafting your story and submitting that draft to Blackboard in your discussion groups by 11 o'clock on Monday. So what you have to submit this week is a written draft of your story. That's the whole project. You can also submit like a draft recording if you would like to. It's not necessarily required this week. It's a good thing. I do encourage it, but for some of you, it might be enough just to write it all out and save the recording for after you've done the workshop next week. Others, you may want to get some feedback on a draft recording. So, you know, whichever way you want, but I do want a written script of some sort, whether it's written out like a story, whether you write it like a script is up to you. But I do want it written out to see that you have developed a story, and so that we can make sure that it's going to work for the project. So again, you're drafting this week. Next week, you will be workshopping the drafts in your discussion group. I'll give you more instructions about that next week. And then in week 6, you will revise and submit those finished recordings. So this week we have the initial discussion board post due Thursday, the discussion board responses, the conversation. I will be looking at what's there at 11 o'clock on Monday. Well, like shortly after that. And then, excuse me, and then you have your project 1 draft that you'll submit in your discussion group by 11 a.m. on Monday. And the reading journals for week 4, the Alado Equiano narrative, those are also due on Monday. So you have a lot due on Monday. Make sure you're kind of scheduling out your time, spreading it out throughout the week so that you don't come to it on Sunday and realize that you have more to do than you have time to do it. If you run into any problems or you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Sooner is always better than later. And remember, I am pretty strict about the evenings and weekends, taking those away from work. So if you can get your emails in, before 5 p.m., that's great. If not, expect a response the next day, the next weekday. All right, so have a wonderful week and let me know if I can help you with anything.